Hi everyone, my name is Varmar and in this video I'm going to show a full tutorial on how to create actual interactive footage without any actors involved or minimal actors involved. The whole idea is that whenever you create your open world environment and you have a 100 square kilometer open world, you should not place actors in your open world, but rather static meshes, right? Obviously, you need to create your foliage with PCG or procedural foliage spawners, so PFS or PCG, and you need to create them with instance static meshes. Now, instance static meshes are not interactive actors, right? You can't just go and look at the static mesh and pick it up to your inventory. That's what actors do, but you can't place actors in the open world, right? There are a lot of tutorials that perhaps show you a version where you can actually just go with a begin and end overlap, go close proximity to the particular, let's say, small foliage like mushrooms, sticks, stones, etc. We're not talking about trees or rocks, that's a different scenario. Like mineable rocks, we're talking about small interactive foliage stuff, right? Mushrooms, little berries, strawberries, I don't know, feathers, stick stones. Now these ones, when you go close proximity, you could swap them over to a full-blown actor, and that actor is able to even have a little tooltip and then say that you press E to pick it up. But I found a more viable option, which is better for specifically large number of players, because if you have 12 players and you're just swapping everything back and forth whenever they go close proximity to something, that's gonna quickly bloat your server, because at the end you're gonna swap thousands of actors in real time back and forth and move instances at the same time, and it's literally gonna kill your performance. So in this tutorial I will show you a different way, and what we're going to do is we're gonna create a child of the instance static mesh component, or foliage instance static mesh component, and we are going to actually have the whole tooltip and everything based upon that, meaning that you're going to have static mesh all the way up until the last moment that you pick it up without too much actor involvement and swapping and whatnot. And this is going to be the video about it, right? Alright, so first thing first, what we need to have some kind of procedural foliage spawner. So let's just go to the foliage. We don't see it here. We need to go into our editor preferences, right? And we need to say procedural foliage, take it on, and that way we are going to be able to see it as such. Procedural foliage spawner. So I'm just going to say PFS cube, right? Obviously, if you work with PCG, that's a little different. I'm not gonna teach you how to do PCG graphs in this video. That's not about it. It works with PFS or PCG, doesn't really matter. For me, it's just easier to do it this way, because directly I can just go here. Let's add the foliage type. In that case, I'm just gonna do a simple cube. Why not? I mean, the cube itself is literally here. I'm going to copy this cube, right? And I'm gonna place it here, the cube itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go to foliage. I'm gonna create a static mesh foliage, and I'm gonna call this one static mesh foliage cube, like this. And the static mesh foliage cube is going to use the cube itself, right? So here, gonna use the chamber cube like this. Great. And that's exactly the part where we need to do our stuff. So Foliage Instanced Static Mesh component, by default, this is that comes with the procedural foliage spawners. Procedural foliage spawners, PFS, they use the Foliage Instanced Static Mesh component, which is an optimized component for large forest environments, large open world foliages. Exactly for that, right? If you do PCG, in your PCG might be named instance static mesh component or hierarchical static mesh component. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go back here. We're going to create a new blueprint class, and we're going to go to all classes, and we're going to type in foliage instanced static mesh component. Now this is how it goes. Scene component is the main, or sorry, actor component is the main parent, then scene, then primitive, then mesh, then static mesh. This is the actual static mesh that we just placed, the cube itself, right? The SM chamber cube that has the static mesh component comp. And then you have instance static mesh component. If you work with PCGs, that's what you're going to have. You're going to have instanced static mesh components. Or furthermore, it's possible also that you're going to have hierarchical instance static mesh components. But if you work with PFS, procedural foliage spawner, then the last one is the foliage instance static mesh component. And that's what we're going to do. Again, if you work with PCG, you might need to do the instance or the hierarchical. I'm not really sure. I'm going to do PFS because it's intended for foliage, and I'm going to do foliage instance static mesh component, right? That's going to be the parent of it. We're going to create a child of this one, right? So we select it, and I'm going to say for this one, swap foliage instance static mesh component, right? So whenever I do this, here I can select it. This is a foliage instance static mesh component. This is a swap foliage instance static mesh component, right? Or I could say custom foliage instance static mesh component or whatever. Now we open this one. We're going to see that it's empty, right? The parent class foliage instance static mesh component, or again, if you PCG, then you might have the instance static mesh component or anything else. That's going to be the parent. So that's what we're going to kind of use it in the cube. Let's just not do anything here for now, but open it. So we have this one, great, and then what we're going to do is the SMF cube, we're gonna insert it here, right? So SMF cube, that's gonna be our foliage type, great, and let's put the procedural foliage spawner right here. Let's extend it a little bit, right? Just so it's a little bit larger, or is it this big? Oh, it's fine, I'm gonna spawn it everywhere. Let's delete this one, right? We don't need this chamber anymore. And then, not guaranteed that this is gonna spawn it directly. Need some tweaking, might be. Let's try it. Load downloaded areas, and then spawn. Oh, okay, spawned. Great. Okay, so we have basically kind of a spawned foliages, right? So the idea is that when I look at any of these components, it will tell me what I'm looking at it. Let's say these ones are mushrooms, these small ones, these are sticks, these are stones, these are feathers, and whenever I'm looking at it, it will respond to me accordingly what I looked at, right? That's kind of the end goal, and I could pick up the item also. Okay, so let's proceed with that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open our BP third person. So content, the third person, blueprints, BP third person, or whatever your character might be, doesn't really matter. Now it has a BeginPlay, right? The character BeginPlay, we're gonna hijack this node, or it could be like after everything went down, doesn't really matter. In this case, I'm just gonna hijack it, right? Like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a set timer by event, right? Like this. So I'm gonna cast this out every 0.1 second in a loop like this. And then it will start the loop, but at the same time it's gonna go through this whole logic, so it's not affecting it. Now what we're going to do here, we could do some initial delay or whatever, we don't do that. We take the event delegate, right? So set, we're gonna do a custom event, and the custom event, we're gonna call this one foliage cast event. Foliage, I can't type. Foliage cast event. Okay, so that's gonna be kind of our event. We could just take this one, have some space here. Okay, so this is going to be executed every 0.1 second. We can try it at this phase if it works or not. Let's just do a print string and say hello. And if everything okay, it's gonna print string hello every 0.1 second, right? So hello, 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 hello. All works, good. So what we're going to actually do here, instead of just hello, 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 is we going to need to do a sphere trace by channel. So sphere trace by channel. And the sphere trace, we should actually create some kind of tracing, right? So you could create a whole new trace channel. In order to do that, we're gonna go to our project settings, and then let's go trace channel. And then here, let's add a new trace channel, and let's call this foliage interact like this, and default block, so fine. Okay, let's compile, good, and we can select now the foliage interact accordingly, right? So debug, we can do for duration, just so we test out the stuff. And then let's build out the actual logic, right? So let's get a self-reference, get a reference to self. And we're going to do get controller. I can't type really. Get controller from the pawn. And from there, we're going to say get player controller. No, this node. Might not need this one. It's player state. No, not player state. That's player controller. So for that, I'm just going to start off with a self-reference like this. And then I'm going to get the controller, right? Get controller, get the pawn controller. Now at this phase, this is a controller object ref. I need to get player controller, controller, get player state, that also works. Get player controller like this. At this stage, we have the player controller. Either way, it has to be some reference. What you could also do, I think, is let's just do it like this. We'll try it out. You could also cast to player controller, and then you have a full-blown player controller object reference, right? In that case, player controller object reference. But I think you don't need to specifically cast because you can just use these fixed nodes right here. But we'll test it out. So let's just do it this way for start, and if it doesn't work, we can go the other way. So we have this one now. We can do a player camera manager get nodes accordingly, player camera manager, and we could do a get camera location, right? And then we can do also a get camera rotation. Now, for the camera rotation, actually for the camera location, what we're going to do, connect it right away to the start. Let's add an execution pin and bring it down. This looks a bit better. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go get forward vector. For the get forward vector, we are going to do a multiply, operators multiply. We are gonna right click and convert it to a integer float. I think float is fine. 600 integer will work also. 650 around, that's a nice range, and we can do add, operators add, and let's add like this, okay? And then the output from this goes into the end node right here. And exactly why I said let's give some space out for us, because we're gonna need it. Okay, so like this. Good, and we can do like this. So what we did here, we did a self-reference, get the controller, player state, get player controller, player camera manager. The camera manager goes to the get camera location, which goes into the start. And then the camera rotation goes into a forward vector, multiplied by 650 as a float. And then you add it together with the location, and that's going to be your end. Okay, so let's do a for duration, and then let's try it out. Let's go back, and that means it's going to cast it like this, right? So wherever you looking in your camera, it's going to be like this, right? Now, it's up to you how you do it. You could technically, you don't need to do this, right? You could do that if your character looks there that way, or if you're a first-person shooter, then fully mouse, or you could do the middle of your screen as a crosshair. Up to you. For me, this is kind of works because I could look at the item backwards of my character and it would still display. But it's up to you. I mean, you can play with this one. I'm pretty sure you're gonna find a ton of different line tracing videos online. The whole idea is just get a line trace, hit the actual item, and we go from there, right? I just built something like this, but it could, and that's what I said. I think it would also work if you just cast it out like and get a player controller reference, but it works like this with the player state. Again, up to you. You have many ways to do so. Okay, let's actually group these things up, right? And just place them as such. And we're gonna do like this, and we're gonna go camera stuff like this, good. And then we can go from there. Let's also bring this up, main stuff. Let's also do like this, just so we can kind of move it, you know, this a little bit to the side. Good. Let's extend and let's move in with the rest of the logic, right? So now we're hitting something. We know that we're hitting something. Now we need to make sure that the trace channel is the foliage interact that we're hitting. So let's go back into our spawners right here. And inside the spawners, we could go into the collision settings. And the collision, we could set the collisions to be custom, collision enabled, whatever you want to do there for those. And trace responses, visibility, camera. What is our custom one? Let's go into the world. Let's open the instance actor, right? We have two instance actors actually. Interestingly, we could delete one, don't need both of those. Let's just swap them accordingly because it thought that it's better, but we don't really need, just let's work with one for now, right? And in this one, we have the swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent. As such, we could go directly here into the collision settings, and we could set it to custom. Query only no physics collision or static, good. And then there we go, our trace responses. The foliage interact gonna be on block, right? It's gonna block the foliage interact itself. Rest of the stuff you do it however you want to. Main thing is have the foliage interact as a block in the collision responses. So that means whenever we hit it, right, with this one, like this, we hit it. See? That's going to actually hit it. So for there, what we can do is we say a branch, right? And in the branch, we're gonna connect it here, that the return value, so we actually did hit something. Now this is that just saying that did we hit something or not? All right, so next thing that we're going to do, we're going to take out the hit result, break hit result, out hit, break hit result, expand it like this. Now the hit component is the primitive object reference and the hit item is the actual instance index, right? So the hit item will be the instance index from here. The component reference is going to be the hit component. Even though that this is a primitive one, it's still the same, but we need to make the actual object reference, right? How we do it, we're gonna get the true branch. We're gonna do a cast to swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent, the one that we created, this one that's used on the cubes. And we're gonna connect the primitive hit component object ref into here, cast it out, and the output of it gonna be a not primitive, but actual object reference. Because here it says primitive component object ref, but here it says swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent object ref, right? So this is the actual legit object reference for the component. We're gonna promote this to a variable, right? And we're gonna call this one, I don't know, ESM, like instance static mesh underscore ref, like instance static mesh ref, right? We're also going to take the hit item from here, and we're also going to promote to a variable, and we're gonna call this one ESM index, right? Let's just actually create its own category right here. So we say foliage like this. Click here, go here, foliage again, and now both of those are inside the foliage folder. Okay, so at this stage you have two variables. The first variable is the component that comes from the casting, successful casting, which tells that if you have C_1 for the stone, C_2 for the stick, C_3 for a mushroom, you get the idea. Each type of foliage you have, you're gonna have different component. So it's gonna tell you that you're looking for C_0, which is the stick, for example, and then the hit index that's going to say, if you found it, the stick, C_1, look at index 25, which could be this stick right here, this particular stick, right? So that's how you identify it. Component is for the component, hit item is for the instance index. That's how we identify it. So at this stage, we have our particular variables that we just declared, so we know that what component we identifying and we know what index are these on. All right, before we go too far into here, we could genuinely just test it out if it works, just in case. You know, let's do some print string, right? So let's do 2 print string nodes just to see that it works like this. Let's do append, and we do another append like this, connect it here, and I'm gonna say the comp is like this and the index is like this, right? I will connect it here and I will connect it here, and let's just print it out. Let's see if it works. Okay, so let's look at something, right? Let's look at here. It says comp is 21 and the comp is there and the index is 21, right? And now it's 23 and I'm looking at 2015 and I'm looking at 8. So yeah, it works basically. Good. Now we know that it all works. I don't need the print strings. I know that I'm basically tracking what I'm looking at right now. So the next step comes. This is the part where I would say, let's create a data table, right? So in our content drawer, let's go back. I would say create a data table. So where is it? I'm always forgetting miscellaneous. Yes, data table right here. We need a structure, right? We need a structure for the data tables. Actually, let's create a struct first, right? So blueprint and structure, and we're gonna call this one DT foliage struct. Like this, and this struct should contain the data table and how it will look like. Obviously, what we need here. First, we need a foliage text. What the foliage should say when you look at it, right? Which should be a text like this. It would be wise if the actual object reference is there in order to determine the static mesh, right? So you're going to need to have a static mesh, right? So static mesh, object reference. Ooh, object, I said object reference, good. Static, now we have a static mesh and we have a foliage text. It knows what it's supposed to say and it knows the actual static mesh itself. What else you need here? Well, it would be nice if you could have your inventory item that's matching, right? So the inventory item that you need to receive in order to, you know, add it to your inventory. Now that would be, it depends. Now this is the part where everyone gonna have it differently. You have your own inventory system. It's completely different from everyone else. In this case, you need to select an object reference to your inventory item kind of structure, right? So it's supposed to be the inventory item object reference that's supposed to be added into your inventory. Which in this case could be an inventory item struct type or whatever that might be. Myself, I'm just going to create a simple string because just for testing, and I'm gonna call this one inventory item, right? Again, it's not gonna be a string for you, 100% gonna be a struct. It depends what inventory you are using. I recommend Games by Hyper, good inventory system. You could use that. At that case, you're gonna have a struct inventory item slot type or whatever that's called. So yeah, you're gonna need an inventory item, you're gonna need a static mesh, and you're gonna need a foliage text, right? So let's just save it down, and then in our content browser, let's go back and create that data table now. But we are going to use the foliage struct that we just created here, and then we're gonna call this one DT foliage items. Okay, so now we have foliage items. Let's add a new row. What we need a foliage text, we need a static mesh, and we need an inventory items. The foliage text, let's say that this is a, I don't know, mushroom, you know, like mushroom, like this. And then the static mesh, we have to select it, and that will be our actual cube, right? This cube right here. We're gonna select it like this, cube selected, good. So the inventory item, in this case, again, you have to link your exact inventory struct or whatever that might be inventory item that you add into your inventory. In this case, I'm gonna say that item mushroom, okay? So just like this. We're gonna save it down, simple, very primitive, just a text, a static mesh, and the inventory item. just so we can, you know, identify it, whatever we're looking at or whatever that should be, right? What we can do now is that we can go into our swap footage instance static mesh component, the one that's completely empty, and we can start building our stuff here, right? Let's go like this. Okay, we need two variables, obviously. Let's do two variables, right? The first variable we're gonna need is gonna be the foliage text, the one that we should know what is it. It's a text, right? So the same that we declared in this struct here, foliage text, this one. The other one should be an inventory item. So the other one gonna be, I'm gonna name it inventory item. Now this one, again, same that you had here, like a struct of something. I don't know what your inventory is. In my case, for testing, it's gonna be a string, but again, it's never a string. It's a struct inventory item something. So I have the two variables, the same one that I have here. I don't care about the static mesh in here, but I will. I'll show you how. So what we're gonna do is from the BeginPlay, we're gonna say get data table row names, right? We're gonna say our DT foliage items, and that's gonna give us an array. Now an array is good because I can for each loop it, and then in the loop body itself, I'm gonna do get data table row utilities, right? The row name is going to be this one, right? And the data table is going to be the one that we just declared, right? So DT foliage item. Now what these do is respond to you with a row, right? Let's just compile it down. It responds to you with a row. Now you can break this because it's a struct, right? It's a struct of the data table row. And what we have the foliage text, we have the static mesh, and we have the inventory item. Wow, it's the same thing that you declared here and the same thing that you declared here inside the data table, okay? So it will know that this is a mushroom, it will know that this is the static mesh, and it will know that the inventory item is, well, this one. Okay, so what's next here? Now the next thing is we have to take a branch, right? So we say a row found, we're gonna say a branch, and inside the branch we're gonna do a conditional check, and we're gonna say equal, right? And what is equals with what? Well, the static mesh that comes from there has to be equal, and let's get a self reference, self, like this, get reference to self. And from there you say get static mesh, right? And then you get the static mesh of the component and you compare it with this one, right? Like this. Now this is cool. And why it's cool? It's because this particular instance, so let's say the swap foliage instance static mesh component. Now it's not just gonna be one component, but whenever you have a huge forest, you have C underscore, like I said previously, C underscore 0 for the stick, C underscore 1 for a stone, C underscore 2 for a mushroom. You get the idea. Maybe you have 15 components because you have 15 different foliage types. There's going to be, for the swap foliage instance static mesh component, 15 instances of it. So the BeginPlay will be executed 15 times. So the foliage text and the inventory item will be declared for each component 15 times. And what does that mean? Is it gonna take a self-reference? It's gonna say, hey, who am I? I am the C underscore 0. So that means I am the stick or stone or whatever. And it's gonna say, once it happens, it's gonna say get the static mesh. The static mesh has to be equal to the static mesh here. So in short, what does that mean? This one, the SM cube, has to be the exact location, exact folder, exact static mesh that you use to spawn these. So if this one right here matches with your, where is it? With here, with the SMF cube up in the top, this one. So this is the exact static mesh I used in the spawner, and I used it here. Then the component on initialization gonna say self get static mesh. If it equals to this one, then it's gonna be true. And in that case, I can take the foliage text, do it like this, set, and then I can set the foliage text like this, right? Pretty straightforward solution. Okay, so now I have the foliage text, and I could also just take the inventory item, this, and then I declare that one also. Okay. Now, again, in your case, it could be different. Just do it like this so it's visible. So in your case, it's not going to be a string. It's going to be some kind of struct item or, you know, whatever. Your inventory could look different. And I'm actually not gonna pull this devlog video from myself previously up, which as you can see, it could be a whole different scenario because you're gonna have attributes, or like it could be a little bit different based on your inventory, how your inventory looks like. That's why I created this primitive version, which works with just a simple string just to test it out, you know? So yeah, we're setting both of these things. And in that case, now these are variables for each of the component. These are requestable, right? So the next stuff we're going to do, we're gonna create a blueprint interface. So let's do blueprint interface, and we're gonna call this Foliage or blueprint interface, BPI, Foliage interact interface, yeah, whatever. Inside, I'm gonna have a new function. I'm gonna call this one get foliage data, like this. I'm gonna no need to have any inputs. I don't wanna give any inputs, but I want to have outputs, right? What I need for outputs? Well, I need a foliage text for output, which gonna be a text, right? Text. And I also need an inventory item. So inventory item. And again, gonna be a string. Again, in your case, this is the struct or the special type of inventory item identifier object ref. And what are these? These are the same things that you did declare here, foliage text, inventory item, the same things that you declared here, foliage text, inventory item. It's gonna respond with these ones, right? So have those things here declared also. Now, if this is completed, then you need to go into your swap child that you created here. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to class settings. You're gonna go in inherited no implemented interfaces, and you're gonna add it. So BPI foliage interact interface. You add it, and then once you do that, you double click here into the get foliage data, and now it's here. And now you need to pass the data. So all you do is do like this, get it back. And all you do is get this one and get it back. And now you pass both of those things back into the requested ones, right? So it's super simple. Now, just to summarize, whenever for each components that you have, C1, C2, C3, gonna have a BeginPlay. It's gonna go through the main data table that you created, gonna request what particular item responds to these, gonna declare the foliage text, gonna declare the inventory item, and in runtime, from anywhere, controller, third-person character, whatever, it can be requested and it can pass it back what we're looking at. So that's kind of what we did. And let's move into the next phase. All right, so the next thing that we could do is let's open the actual static mesh that we're working with, this particular cube, and let's open the material of the cube, which is in this case mi_solid blue, which is a material instance. Okay, let's open it. And then the parent material is called right here, m_solid, right? So this material right here. Now we could play with this one. It has a base color, yeah. Oh, good. Okay, so we could play with this one a little bit. Let's apply our kind of outglow effect, right? And the outglow effect will be really simple. So we need to get a Fresnel node like this. Don't touch it, leave it as it is, all good values, multiply, like this. And we're gonna multiply by a get vector, no vector, 2D, 3D, constant 3 vector. Yes, that's the one we need. And let's have this one to a, I don't know, whatever you might wanna do, a red outglow, whatever. And then it's gonna go to another multiply, and the other multiply gonna go into a set custom data value per instance custom data. Yes, this one, per custom instance data. The index 0, because that's the only thing you do. If you have other instance custom data value nodes, then you might need to be on the index 1 or 2 or 3, so it doesn't interact gets into conflict with other. Just choose a free index that you have here. If you don't have anything, that's gonna be index 0. Okay, so then you're gonna connect this one to emissive color of the material, right? What does that mean? It means that from this moment on, if you have this one at 1, gonna glow it or red. If you have 0, it's not gonna glow it, right? 1 glows, 0 doesn't glow. It's a simple runtime editable effect, right? So we're gonna take this one, group it up. We say color outline. You do this for each of the materials that you have in your kind of, one for a stick, one for a stone, one for a, you get the idea. That's how you outline them and change the outline in runtime. So that's, and you control this with the set custom data value node, where you say I'm targeting index 0 and I'm targeting the constant value 1 being this, 0 being this. Now, why multiply node? It could be an if node, and it would say if custom data value is 0, don't do it. If 1, do it, but multiply is the same, because if you multiply this by 0, well, it's not going to be anything. If you multiply this by 1, well, what's going to happen is going to be just like it is. So it's actually disconnecting here is exactly like a if statement. Obviously, it shouldn't be like 2 or 3, because 2 going to be really, really glowing, and 3 going to be even way more glowing. So 1 is more than fine for us. 1 is glows, 0 it doesn't glow. Default value 0, of course, by default doesn't glow. We apply it. Okay, so what we can do is we can try it out. We can try it out in runtime how it looks like, right? So we connect it to the emissive color. Good. Let's save this one also, but it doesn't need any changing. Let's go back to the BP third person, and just to try out, we can do set custom data value. Set custom data value, right? Instance static mesh right here. Set custom data value. And then we're gonna target the data index 0. Like I said, we are on index 0, and the value to be 1.0, which we discussed. It's going to be the mark state render dirty on to render it instantly. Now the target gonna be this one, the instance, the swap foliage object ref, and the index itself gonna be your instance index, right? So if everything well, then once you look at an item, it's gonna make it glow. But it doesn't, because the cubes are a little bit different, right? What's the issue here? I think the material itself, how it is, a material instance, right? Yeah, because the base color is the issue. Let's take out the base color. Obviously, you won't have that particular issue. And let's go back and try again. Right, just to make it a little bit more simple, I just took the raw material out, like this one, right? The simple material, and I placed it like this into our kind of what everything else is. I open my static mesh and I directly linked it here. So my cube has the material, not material instance or anything, just a raw material like this. Makes no difference, but just in case we can debug if there's issue. So have the color outline go directly into the emissive color, have the basic blend mode into masked, and have this material linked into your kind of static mesh, right? And then inside the world, we can confirm by going into the instance foliage actor, and then let's see in the swap, in the component itself, here the actual, yeah, it has this kind of solid stuff here. So all good, we can try it out. What we need to do is go into the BP third person, right? And have this node here, right? So how you do it is a set custom data value, instance static mesh set custom data value, and all you need to do is have a target. The target is your previously declared, get it from here, or you could get it from here, whatever. And the index is that you declared instance index. Again, you could just directly get it from here and directly get it from here, but you declared it, so use it. And then the index is 0. Why? Because the index here is 0, so index 0, and the value is 1, which gonna outglow. 0, that's not gonna outglow. Okay, so let's set it to 1 on the data index 0 and mark render state dirty. This means that should it update instantly, or are you doing like a batch, like 100 one and then just update the last one rendering? But we do one by one, so mark render state dirty, and this should update it, right? So if we go to our world view, let's go into a cube, and it doesn't. Now, why is that? It must be because when we go to here, instance foliage actor, now what happens by default, when you create a foliage actor, it doesn't give you custom data float, right? So let's just type custom data. Actually, let's click in here into the component and custom data. And by default, it doesn't give you a custom data float, right? Unfortunately, it's 0. So you have to put 1. So it gives you free data float. Now I think we can also set it in here, swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent, class settings, and the number of custom data flow, is it not here? Class defaults. Let's open this. Number of custom data floats. Yes, you can just basically set it here to be 1, like this. And that would mean that you do not need to set it in runtime here, right? So I could technically delete this, re-trigger from here, from the spawner itself, right? Let's just re-simulate, and actually let's delete one, just we need one. If we go back here and now type custom data in this component, now it has 1. Yes. So basically you need to go in here and in the class default set the number of custom data flows to 1, and that will give you custom data float. Now that what does that mean is when you go here and look at it, wow, it outglow it. You look at it, outglow. So that's how you kind of outglow an item in real time. Now we need to go into further how we could, because now we just look at it and we highlight and that's it. So we need a good system how we can do that. We'll do that, but first let's just go forward, and we actually also gonna create a widget, right? So we outglow the item now nicely by the custom data value. Now we need to use, first we need to use the BP interface. Okay, so we created in the swap foliage this get foliage data, right? Which is the blueprint interface that returns to you the foliage text and the inventory item. So in the BP third person, actually we can close the material, we can close the cube. We're not gonna use this, even the interface. We're not gonna use the foliage items unless we're adding some more, but for testing we won't. So let's just keep the third person open, the component open. Yeah, that's the two things that needs to be open now. Let's first request this data, right? It's called get foliage data that we created. So get foliage data, and the one that says with a message, because you are initiating this with a message, right? And you need to target who are you going to send this message. Now that's going to be this previously declared one, right? So you could just use it as variables here. It looks a little bit better, right? So just use it like this. You could use it like this, right? There we go. And that will return to you the foliage text. We can test this because you could just print string and then print out the foliage text that you're looking at, right? Let's go back. I'm looking at this one, mushroom, mushroom, right? So it responds to you with the actual text from the data table. And actually, let's bring back the data table again, because it set mushroom here. It's mushroom. If I set, I don't know, mushroom 2, then obviously it's gonna say mushroom 2, right? So that's kind of the whole magic behind it. But you're getting the response from here, which is pretty cool. Why? Because it looped through in BeginPlay and it already knows from the data table. So, and we could spice these things up. We could add like multiple things in here. So let's say I'm adding one more thing here, right? And then, I don't know, this could be called strawberry, right? And the static mesh, actually, yeah, let's spice things up. Let's create this chamber cube. Let's make a duplication, right? The static mesh. And we're gonna say SM chamber cube version 2, right? And this one going to have the same material and everything, but it's a different cube, right? So let's just link it here, version 2, strawberry, and the inventory item is item underscore strawberry, right? Strawberry, like this. Good. So we have mushroom and we have strawberry, right? And then in the spawner, procedural foliage spawner, let's actually create a foliage, static mesh foliage, and We're gonna call this one SMF cube 2, whatever. So you have a cube, cube 2. Now the cube 2 gonna use the version 2 cube like this, and also gonna use the swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent. We could let's just say rename this one SM underscore what was it, mushroom, and then have this one as SM strawberry. If that's just so we're not mixing ourselves, right? So SMF mushroom, right, and SMF strawberry. Okay, so you have static mesh mushroom, static mesh strawberry, static mesh foliage mushroom, static mesh foliage strawberry, right? And each is actually doing it accordingly. Now in your data table, it's also rewritten, so SM mushroom, SM strawberry. Like it's a little bit, you know, more organized. So you have 2 static meshes, 2 spawners, right? And in just so we can kind of make a difference, let's open both of those static meshes, right? Like this. And we could kind of make different outglow on them, right? Because each of these are actually using the same kind of material, but if we could actually also duplicate this, and we could kind of make them a little bit different cutoff. We don't need it right now. It could be the same, but let's go to the open world. Let's delete this one, the currently existing. Let's open the procedural foliage spawn, and I'm gonna add the new type here for the strawberry, right? So we're gonna have mushroom and we're gonna have strawberry. If we simulate it again, simulate it again. I don't need to split it, one is fine. If we go in, and again, we need to set the custom data values, right? I guess so. Let's just do custom. Oh no, it has float points. Oh, we're done, I guess. So why we are not seeing it? Oh, because it needs to have the in the collision settings. Let's just do it directly here, right? In the collision settings, have to have on block, custom query where static should be fine. Okay, let's try it. Good. Now this is strawberry. Strawberry also have a mushroom here. Good. Strawberry again. Mushroom. Good. So you get the idea. I could make them like blue, strawberry, red, mushroom, so you just have a difference in between them. But either way, it works for what we need. So we have static mesh foliage for each of those. We have static meshes for each of those, and we have a nice data table where we have for each of them a foliage text and an inventory item. Now we could go further in this, and this is the part where I would create the widget itself, right? So for the widget, let's just do a simple user interface widget, and then we do not have let's just actually go to plugins, right? Common UI. Let's grab common UI. Beta version, no problem for us. Let's restart it. I want to have the common UI because I want to build it with that one, right? Good. Actually, I might not need common UI, but either way, let's just create a widget blueprint. I will see if we use common UI. Let's just have a simple user widget. I'm going to say widget blueprint interact. Yeah, that's about right. All right, so first thing first, let's of course add the canvas panel like this. Inside the canvas panel, we could do a vertical box. Good. Inside the vertical box, we could add horizontal boxes. Let's add 2 of those, right? Vertical box like this, one more like this. The top one, we could do a size box, add it on the top one, and then inside size box, we could do an image inside the size box, which is basically, let's say this one is the E button. So it's just literally a button that says E right here. You import your own image, which looks nice in your idea, and it should just say an E button basically, or an image of an E button. It doesn't need to be a button because we are going to trigger it from a button. Actually, it can be a simple image, whatever you want to have here, or have a whole image that says interact or something here. But if you want it as a text, then you could say text block, I guess. Should we use common or let's do common UI, no? Why not? Common text. And then add it to the, not the size box, but the horizontal box, right? And in this one, we're going to say interact or pick up, or whatever you want to say it to be. And this is going to be an E key. It's literally going to say an E key or an image of an E key, and it's going to say interact. And below that, here at the bottom, that's where it's actually in the horizontal box gonna have the text itself, right? Which is going to say to you stone, stick, and whatnot. Okay, so next thing, we need the same kind of text, but in this case into this horizontal box, which is gonna be the interact text itself. We don't need to have a predefined value, and that's what is going to be for the actual kind of stuff, right? So in this case, this could be, I don't know, interact text block, this, right? And this could be an interact text block secondary, but in this case this is a variable, right? And that's kind of the graph itself. I mean, not much to it. Let's move into, the designer part of things, right? So we don't need to set too much things here. We can just dynamically is variable and then go into the graph, right? And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to add the new variable, foliage text, set the variable to text, right? And make it expose and spawn. And instance editable, sure. What that's going to do in the BP third person, whenever you spawn the widget, right? So let's say you got the output here, create widget. The widget is going to be our custom widget, which is interact widget. And the foliage text is going to be the foliage text. And that's exactly what I needed, that expose spawn stuff, because I can just do like that. Now the owning player, we need to set it to ourself. The owning player start, so we say self. Obviously we are not in a controller but a pawn, so get controller. This, I don't think I can connect it. Yes, I do need to get player controller. Oops. Then let's do player state, and then from there get player controller. Or you could directly bypass this the same way that you did in the beginning with the casting. So you could do cast from here, cast to player controller, and get your object ref that's going to be compatible. But it worked that way, so why not use it this way? If you have multiplayer, you might need different scenario, but get a reference to your controller. That's all I mean. There's going to be your owning controller, and then from there, you could set it as a variable. Like let's promote it to a variable. We're going to call this new variable. We're going to call this interact widget. Let's move it to the foliage here. Good. And then we're going to set viewport, set to viewport. Wait. Viewport, add to viewport, yes, sorry. So add to viewport, and then it's going to be added into your viewport, right? Good. Now we need to actually select it here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to create a custom function for it. And actually, let's go into our designer side of things, right? And the text right here, whenever we go here into this text block, we can just basically bind it, right? So create a binding to it. And that's going to create this function right here with the return value. And the return value, the return value going to be our get foliage text right here. That's all that it needs to be done. and it's going to return it. So then dynamically, the under part is going to be this one. Now, what else missing? We could set everything, like the main vertical box, into the middle of the screen, so it's a little bit nicer. Let's just go in here, and then we look at something, and now it's a strawberry on the top left corner. If you see, it's a strawberry, and of course it's rewriting because we have not taken in control of that, right? So let's go back here, and actually I'm not gonna set this one, right? I'm gonna set the whole canvas, not the canvas itself. Let's set it to middle, and then reset. Yeah, that's about right. Everything into the middle. Let's look at something. Interact strawberry. Nice. Okay, so we have some kind of, you know, widgets to display our stuff. Now comes a little bit, well, not complicated or more complicated stuff, but we're gonna do a whole bunch of different kind of branching, and I'm gonna pull up my other project where I have it because I don't remember exactly how it looks like. Okay, so let's bring up our BP third person. That's where we are currently, right? So we did set everything, and it's now we need to make a differentiate when you look at something, doesn't look at something, blah blah blah. Let's pull this one out like this, and we're gonna go one by one, right? I'm actually going to go like this. Yeah, so we need a few other stuff, variables, like in the foliage. You have ESMRef, you have ESM index, right? So we're gonna create a ESM underscore current ref, and I'm gonna create a ESM underscore current index. Yes, this one gonna be, of course, integer, and then this one going to be a swap reference, right? So swap FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent object ref. Same like the ESM ref, right? So and let's put it like this. Interact widget. Where is my other variable? Current ref. Okay. So what these variables are? Current refs. Now this one, what are we going to do here is going to be very simple. We're gonna say you're looking at something, you look away, we're gonna delete it. You look at it, we're gonna create. You look away, we delete. And accordingly, we need to track of what you're looking currently, and that's the current one, right? You have a normal one and you have a current one. So how it's going to do is that from the break hit result, I can actually kind of minimize this one, don't need that. Gonna cast it out, right? That's obviously gonna be the same for everything. If the cast failed, you could print that out. Like let's say, I don't know, cast is failed, right? But if it doesn't fail, if it's successful, what we could do is we're gonna hijack this line, and then we could say with a equal node, right? Two equal nodes actually, like this, and both of those should go into Boolean AND, right? Like this, which obviously should go to a branch, which you're gonna say yes or no, and I'm gonna group this, and I'm gonna say is last object equals current object, question mark. And then if it is, then I'm going to say that I'm gonna compare this one that I casted out to the current object, like this. Is it the same? Is it the current one is the same that we're casting? And also for the index itself, right? I'm also need to compare this, and I'm gonna say what I am currently looking at, right, is equals, actually just, yeah, is equals to the current index, right? So let's get current index like this. Basically, this little comparison part, it says whatever you're looking at currently, is it the current one or is it something new? You know, that's kind of basically it. And actually, let's just do like this, right? And it's not gonna directly go into here. Let's move everything a little bit to the side like this. But first, it's actually going to go into this branch, and then inside the branch, it's gonna check if you're looking at the same thing. You know, if it's true, that means print string. It means that we are, and I'm gonna do it so you understand. We are still looking at the same object, right? Like this. And then if it's false, then we can do this particular stuff. If it's false, it's a new item. Go like this. You declare two of those, obviously from here and from here. Just could do it this so it looks a little bit nice and more understandable. Right? Let's make it nice looking. Like this, good. And then maybe like this, good. Once you set them, I'm gonna do another variable, and this is important. What I'm gonna say is looking at foliage, but this one gonna be a boolean, and by default you're not looking at a foliage, right? Let's bring it here also, and in that case I'm gonna set it to true because, well, you are looking at a foliage, just like this, and then from there can go here. Okay, so you're looking at a foliage. That's perfect. I'm gonna set it that you're looking at a foliage, and I'm gonna do it like this. I can even gonna set the actually it's not gonna set the ESM index itself, but it's actually going to set the current one, right? So let's get the current ref, and let's get the current index, right? And then it's gonna be like this. It's gonna go here, and it's gonna go here. Okay, so if it's false, like this, good. Okay, so we're setting the current ref and we're setting the current index. That's the current stuff that we're looking for right now. And then we say if it is, then we do the current ref, we do the current index, and just connect it here, and then we're setting the custom data value, the particular item. I'm actually gonna do it like this, like this, like this. Get player controller. Good. Just so I see it's for that. Good. And then we do the current component here also. The reply, we're gonna create our particular widget. We're gonna add it into our viewport. And actually, from the previous replies, before we move on, actually it would be better to, this is where you would set your item, right? So promote your variable, and that would be your inventory item, and that goes into the foliage. So inventory item, that's an inventory item, and you could also set the foliage text, right? So that's also promote your variable foliage text. Let's also drop this here. Okay, so we said, just just to be sure, you set both of those things when you do this, right? And then you trigger the actual creation and then use those values accordingly. Good. So just so it's a little bit more visible, like this. Just so you see it. Okay, and then we did that. We declared as a widget. We added into our viewport, and we are again also need to move it out a little bit because we again hit the side. Let's just move it far away. All right. So we have the first part set. We added into our viewport. It's a new thing. We look at it. We declare. We added into our viewport. Blah blah blah. All good. Now comes the other part of things, which is we need to go back into the beginning way more here. And in the false node, we have to say, which says the return value is true or false. If it's false, that means you looked away, right? Now you're seeing the ground, basically. And the ground, which is the landscape material, which is, the landscape or a static mesh you're standing on or anything else that does not belong to your kind of casting things, it's going to be a false line, right? So, and there it can go into a branch, right? And here we're going to do it, and I'm going to call this one. We're not looking at valid object, right? Let's open this one a little bit. Good, let's add some red color, not that bright, like something like this. So we're not looking at a valid object. In that case, I'm going to definitely check for is looking at a foliage. Now, if you're if you're looking at a foliage, it's true. I mean, it's true. You think you're looking at a foliage because you declared it here. That means that you just looked away. Like this is the moment where you looked away to something else, right? So set custom data value. Oops. Why I don't see it? Case sensitive, of course. Set custom data value. Not this one. Thank you very much. Set custom data value like this. So the set custom data value, I'm gonna take the current hit component. Oops. I'm gonna connect it. I'm gonna take the current hit index like this. By the way, why I'm having like different for this one and different for this one, because I'm using this for other parts, right? Actually, now that I'm just thinking about it, we could have just used this one all the way, but whenever you're working with the same objects kind of in a different way, you're gonna need these ones in other parts, but I might not do that in this tutorial. So actually you could have just used these ones. It's all fine, just have the same variables either way. Now that I think about this, stupid, I created the new ones, we could have just used these, but either way, let's say for my OCD, I need to know that this is the current looking at something, you know. So we'll set custom data value, and we're gonna do the current ref and a current index, and we're gonna say that it is supposed to be 0 with a marker under state dirty, so you update them to be not outlined, right? You're also going to set the is looking foliage false, because now you are not looking at something, you looked away. And now you also can go into a branch which says condition will be is valid, right? Nope, not like this. Actually get the interact widget like this, and then you say is valid. Let's get context sensitive, is valid, and this goes into your branch. So you're checking if the interact widget is valid or not. If it's false, then you can print it that says I don't know, tried to remove invalid widget. But if it's true, then remove from parent, case sensitive, remove from parent, interact widget, remove from parent, and then you set the current hit component to be empty, and you set the inventory item, right, to be empty. Or this is, of course, this is a struct for you, so it's completely different for you, right? In this case, you say try to remove invalid widget, try to remove invalid widget, and then here you say removed valid widget. Good. And actually extend these one so I have more spacing. Good. Extend on the top side also, and extend this way also. Okay, so remove valid widget, try to remove invalid widget, and together these ones right here we could just group them into something nice like this, and we say we just now looked away from previously valid object. So we looked at something, but in this very moment that this happens, we looked away, right? That's kind of the whole branch idea behind it. And inside we either remove a valid widget or we do not, because it's an invalid widget. Now, if it is looking at foliage is false, that means we already looked away, right? So print string, and then we say we zoom in, we already were looking away, do nothing. Let's also group it to say we were already looking away, do nothing. Yes. And then let's color it like this color, good. So what do we do here is we say, and let's actually this, good. Let's move this one a little bit down here, good. Yeah, so basically that's kind of the whole idea behind it. And in the top here, cast this for no here, we could say we are still looking at the same item or foliage, whatever. And here we go, you created everything. We're still looking at it, and in here you group these also, and you say, oh, this is a, oops, this is a new item that I'm looking at, like this. Okay, let's compile. Okay, so we have 4 different things that we can do. We basically trace it and we say is last object equals current object. If the last, and by the way, yeah, you don't need this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know why I created double one. Either way, so you checking the hit index and you checking the actual casted object reference, and you say the current ref and the current index equals to those things. If it equals to it, that means you are still looking at the same item. If it not, that means, oh, it's a new item, so you take care of it. But if the whole before it, if the return value from the trace channel is invalid, that means you looked away. It can be 2 things. You either just look now to a previously valid object, like you just looked away, or you were already looking away. So again, just to recap, it could be you're looking at a new item, you're still looking at a new item, you just looked away right now, and you were already looking away. In that case, do nothing, of course, right? So I think that's it, but let's just try it out, right? So let's go into the game. Strawberry, and then it's still there, so we just let's just try to fix it. And I think the issue is that it returns to a valid value these particular cubes, right? So the basic of our map, right? So the landscape wouldn't do that, but it could be. Let's just do collision, right? Let's actually see which collision settings these kind of, you know, cubes are set into. Collision presets, custom. Okay, collision enabled, and yes, the foliage interact should be ignored. We are not going to block it or overlap with it. So that means obviously in a landscape, you need to make sure that the foliage interact is ignored, right? So anything that should not be is ignored. Your base kind of landscape, which in this case it's a static mesh, but in your case could be the landscape or whatever. Now let's try it again. We're looking at it, we're looking at away. You're looking at it, looking at away. I don't even need a character for that, yeah? Like this. And then I'm going to the next one. This is a strawberry, I'm looking at away. This is a mushroom, I'm looking at away. This is a strawberry, I'm looking at away. This is strawberry, looking at away. You see? And I can just go around, look at stuff, and it's going to be... And by the way, we are on still actors, like 27 actors. We didn't involve any actor into here. Like it's still, they are static meshes. Like literally, these are all static meshes, but they telling me that what I'm currently looking at it, because these components know exactly that what you're looking at right now. So that's kind of the idea behind it. As you can see, we're already looking away, and then we look at it, we're still looking at the same object, we're looking away, and whenever we look at it, right, if I could print it, it doesn't print it out, but if what I would do is, before this happens, we could just say, print it like this, right? Oh, like this, oh, new item, good. And then whenever it goes to this part, we say, now we looked away. So that would mean that in the open world, whenever I look at something, oh, new good, new item good, you see, when you look at it. And whenever you look away, right, let's just go back, let's look at something, new item, and when we're looking at the same item, and we look away. And now it says over there, you see, let's just do like this quickly, and now let's print it out. So, new item, we're looking at the same item, we just looked away and we were already looking away. That's kind of the whole idea behind it. And then you can just go around, look at stuff, you know, and they will be highlighted. And by the way, this is all client side. It's nothing to do with the server itself. You as a client, you're just asking whatever that is, and you're rendering the widget to yourself. It's not going to be from server or anything. So that's kind of the whole idea. And from here, what I would do, and actually we can just, so it doesn't, you know, spawn yourself, you could just do like this. Let's disconnect also these ones. And then it's not... and then like this, and it's not spawning or not spamming you, you know. And basically from here, you just go around, look at stuff, you see strawberry, and by the way, you see that white circle here, insert your image. Just insert an image which is like a E key, or whatever that might be, and then it's your responsibility how you do it. I just explained to you how you could kind of do this, and you go around and you need to look at stuff. Now, what you could do to actually pick up the item is very simple. You have this kind of whole setup here. Next to it, completely different, you just do a E key, or in your case, an input action key or whatever, you know, obviously in a game, you're not going to hard code it like this. You're going to have an input action, input mapping. So if the user changes the input map, then it's going to be changed accordingly. But what you hear whenever you do the input action, so it could be a IE input action, whatever, in this case, it's just a keybind. Whenever the user actually presses a key, right, all you're going to do is you're going to check for this one, right, get, and you're going to say branch, and you're going to say connected. If it's true, then we can print that says I am looking at item pickup allowed. And if it's false, we're gonna say not looking at item, what to pick up. So what it means in reality is you go back into the game, you're looking at something, you press, and you say looking at item pickup allowed. You look away, you press same, you're not looking at an item, what to pick up, you know? Like, what do you want to pick up? You're not looking at anything, but if you're looking at something, sure, allowed to pick it up. And this is exactly what you need, because from here, you could just simply take the true line and then do your pickup logic, whatever that might be. You know, spawn an actor, give it to an inventory, etc. How you do that? You have your inventory right here. This is your inventory item. Why? Because you declared it previously right here. So you can just use this, and whenever you look away, this one will be resetted back to 0, and along with this one. So basically that means in here, just add this item into your inventory, and the whole tutorial is complete, right? And we could just say print. I'm not gonna do the inventory because everyone has their own inventory. I'm not gonna do that. You do with your own inventory how you want to do. I don't know, place an actor. The actor will give the item to your inventory, and then after a short delay, it will destroy itself, or do whatever you want. Up to you. But in this case, I'm gonna say item, and actually, let's just have a print string. Let's actually add an append, right? Append, context sensitive. And I'm gonna say item added to inventory like this, and I'm gonna connect this one here, right? So let's just see what it means in reality. You look at this one, press E key, item added to inventory, item strawberry. Or if you look here, item added to the inventory, item mushroom, item strawberry, item mushroom. Yay, that's all it takes basically, and you have a complete working system where you work with the child components who dynamically respond to you with the foliage text. You're literally creating tooltip widgets for yourself to display those things, and you can also give these items to your inventory. You only needed a data table to store these things, a child of the FoliageInstancedStaticMeshComponent, a tooltip to display those things, and your BP third person where you made a whole bunch of kind of logic to differentiate in between looking at a new item, still looking at that particular item, just looking away, and already were looking away. And of course, each of these are going to be triggered every 0.1 second. You could speed that up, slow it down, do your pace. Don't do event tick, it's overkill. 0.1 second already sufficient, and that's kind of my method to make the actual foliage system fully interactable without placing any actors. And also, by the way, of course, whenever you pick up the item, what you would do is you either remove the instance, so you do remove instance, right? Take out the context insensitive, remove instance or instances, right? And you're just going to remove the the instance static mesh component, or you could do is update instance, right? Update instance transform, and we just take the actual reference. So you have your this one, and you have your this one, and you just connect it like this, connect it like this, and then you remove it somewhere out of the world, right? So let's have a graveyard position. I don't know, this one somewhere. I don't know. Let's just place a cube somewhere here. Let's get the location out of it, right? And then let's have a variable which is called graveyard. I recommend this one because then it's not gonna shift indexes if you add or remove. So if you do the add instance or remove instance, then it's gonna shift the indexes. So I don't recommend. I recommend update instance transform. And then what would you do is you would do graveyard here, and let's set a location for it, right, from the open world. This one right here, this, and then like this, and then we'll just set a graveyard location, right? And the graveyard location goes like this, and then like this, and then teleport, mark render state, and the word space all on. So what you do, you add it to your inventory and then move it out of the way, right? So in reality, let's go back. You look at something, you want to pick it up, and you move it out. Just gonna move it right there, you see? And then you kind of moved it out and you add it into your inventory. That's kind of it, basically. That was a long video. If you got it to the end and you followed it, congratulations to you. I hope I was informative. I hope you learned something today. And if you do, please subscribe, leave a comment, like, you got the idea. Hit a thumbs up, and I see you at the next one. Bye.